Hello, hello. It is me again. It is Misha. Hi, how are you doing? Good to see you. How are you? Happy holidays. I do believe this is going to be up right about the time of holidays. If not, maybe the week after. We'll see. It's all in plan. I'm just filming a ton right now, but we'll see. How are you doing? Hi. If you don't know who I am, my name is Aspasia. This is my channel, Asparagus Reading, and today we're going to be talking about some of my best books of 2021. Out of all the books on this list, I do physically own four of them. So, without any specific order or anything like that, we're just gonna knock those four out and we're gonna get into the other ones afterwards. And so the first one of those books being is Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby, which is a book of the month pick that I got back in July. When I first picked this up, I'm gonna be honest, a little nervous because I don't really read books like this. I don't think, like just genre wise and content wise, I don't think I really like this. But when I read the description, it really reminded me of that trope in books, TV shows, and movies where something happens to a family member and the main character goes absolutely feral trying to seek revenge and get answers about why that thing happened. And that trope is amazing. So this book follows two fathers. Their names are Ike and Buddy Lee. So Ike is a black father living in the South, and Buddy Lee is a white father living in the South. So both of them are recently buried their sons and going through some grief. Their sons were married, and recently they found out that their sons were murdered out in public, shot dead in the street. Ike is a bit more like, because the police aren't doing anything, he doesn't really seem as interested to really do anything about it or to question or do anything about it. Buddy Lee's very like, listen, I don't like how this went down. I don't like what they're telling me. This is not it. I want to do something about it. And eventually he convinces Ike to go on this crazy, wild, bloody, murderous, angry journey to find out why their sons are murdered, what they were involved with, what happened, why the cops aren't really doing anything, and possibly getting their own revenge on those people. These two, obviously, unfortunately, have grown up the way they have. They have learned a lot of their information about their race and the opposite race from their parents in society, and often they have flaws. Let's start with there. And they can often show those flaws and their ignorance in certain things going on. And so the two of them will kind of go back and forth and have those conversations, but also some arguments. There's also times when they are on a journey trying to get those questions and answers about their son's death. They are often met with certain. They're often have to have these conversations. There's one scene when they're in a bar. That one I feel like really touched on race and sexuality, and that one was definitely, I can see, very comfortable for both main characters, but like necessary for both main characters. And I really enjoyed this one. This was a big surprise. I ended up giving it like 5 out of 1,000,000 stars. Like, I loved it. The other book that I read this year that I have on this list is also a book of the month pick, and that is Love Hypothesis. This is another one that I feel like many people have heard about and have also loved as much as I have. This is a contemporary romance. I want to say more of adult romance. So one day, Olive is like talking up with her friend, and her friend makes some comments about her relationships, and Olive, trying to show her friend that it's not true, even though it is. She grabs the nearest guy near her and kisses them right on the lips, and that person happens to be Adam Carlson. So Adam Carlson is a professor of the university, and he is one of the professors of many of the students that Olivia's familiar with. She's trying to hide the fact that her love life is not really what her friend thinks it is. It's not up there, and so she goes to Adam with a plan to kind of hide and fake a relationship and kind of make things work. And then also it helps him because I believe he's about to lose some scholarships, lose some issues with his job, and so having somewhat of a stable relationship and showing that he has roots and he's not going to just up and leave, the university is more likely to send money toward his way, towards his, towards what he does with the students in school. And so they decide to have a fake relationship to get their benefits out of it, and things go wild. So another one that I recently read, this one is not a book of the month pick, we're done with book of the month for now, is Blackout. This is a short story collection by 6 black authors: Danielle Clayton, Tiffany D. Jackson, Nick Stone, Eddie Thomas, Ashley Woodfolk, and Nick Leune. This is basically about a bunch of black people in the town of New York that are living their life in New York, and all of a sudden there's a blackout. Around the time it is blackout for them, I do believe I think they're kind of in our world, same timeline, like they're getting out of a pandemic but not necessarily good. It's kind of where we are. Like, we are all vaccinated and getting things done, you know, working towards a better position for the world, but still a little cautious, still having some issues, little cases here and there. And so that's definitely what's happening in here. You know, they're trying to get back to normal, things like that. So you do see mentions of people wearing masks and being cautious and things like that. But for the most part, it's not a main theme of the book. But anyway, so this is a bunch of short story collections having to do with love and just black love during a blackout in New York, and how wonderful it is. I feel like a lot of stories we read, we even see in TV media, black stories tend to have some struggle. They just tend to be very stereotypical and just no one really wants that. And so I enjoyed this one because it was all just normal. It felt like I could meet these characters if I went to visit New York. Like, it just felt normal. There was nothing crazy. There was no. It just felt real. And also it was nice because even though, yes, it's a book and you go to a book to kind of get away from the realities of the world, it's kind of nice to be like, some people had some good things come out of the quarantine. I don't know. It was just a nice book, and I really, really enjoyed it. Alright, and so my last physical book for this list is All the Feels by Olivia Dade. This is her third book that I read, maybe fourth. So this one follows Alex Woodrow and Lauren Clegg. So Alex Woodrow is a character that you have seen in a previous book called Spoiler Alert, which is very celebrity based. And I believe this story takes place around the same time of Spoiler, because there were definitely some things happening in here and I was like, did that happen in the other books? I think this might take place around the same time, if not slightly before. So, don't take my word for that. I could be wrong. Maybe, I don't know. Anyways, getting sidetracked here. This follows Alex, who has been quite a few media scandals. He get a little trouble, some bar fights, some cussing out, some things, you know, here and there, and people are like, okay. And the more he continues acting out and just not really filtering what he says and what he does, is starting to affect his career. And unfortunately, the show that he's working very well on are kind of like, all right, we had enough. If we don't get together, we're going to have some serious lawyer action. You're going to leave your job. And there's a very good potential this is going to affect future jobs. And so they hire Lauren, who is basically be like his babysitter. I'm not really sure what the correct, like, official term for it. It's basically like his babysitter, kind of just monitor what he does, help him with his alcohol intake, make sure he does what he needs to for the show, make sure he doesn't say too much, do too much, you know, just keep him in check until the show ends, until all the episodes air. Once that's done, he's free. Do whatever you want. And so that's basically exactly what happens. She's with him all the time, making sure, you know, he's not doing anything crazy, make sure there's no fights, no spoiling the show, nothing, you know, nothing crazy. Just making sure he's doing good, doing what he's supposed to do. In the process of doing that, Lauren starts to question something. She's like, don't really know if the way I perceive Alex is the right one. Don't think the stories you told me are fact. Have y'all even asked him? Has anybody even asked him what really happened, why he does these things? And so she has started to question what has happened and why she's there, and also just learning more about him and who he is and the layers to him and why he does what he does. So this does have ADHD rep, and she is a ER therapist nurse. There's another nurse, there's not a name for it, I can't remember what the name for it. She's basically that woman who's in the ER, so kind of like a crisis person. So basically, if you or family members like on the verge of suicide or something along those lines, and you come into the ER, she's one of the people that you will see. Or like if you are really going through some serious like drug addiction, I believe she's the person you would see. And so they felt like she would be the best to help Alex because he's kind of wild and out, or so they believe. There's a bit of a road trip in here. There is a one bed trope in here. There is grumpy and sunshine trope, tall and short trope, celebrity, fan fiction, the cuddling for warmth trope, when they use nicknames and last names for each other trope, all that's in there. If you want a little bit of a slow burn, but this man says women rights, and we love to see it. Like this man, honestly, I just find it interesting because she's supposed to be there helping him and keeping him in check, and I swear he's over there babysitting her and protecting her all day long. Like, he said women rights. He said women rights, okay? He's like, woman equality, respect women, don't touch women, women rights. And I'm like, husband material. Husband material. Also forgot to mention that there is representation, discussion, and description of domestic violence and abuse and things like that. Won't go into details about it, but that is in there. So if you're someone who might have gone through it, don't really want to read it, or might find that topic sensitive and emotional for you, be warned. That is in here. It's not a lot. It's just discussing it because it relates to certain characters in the book. But I really enjoyed this one. This was definitely one that I was skeptical about at first, and then all of a sudden I really enjoyed it. Next thing I knew, I was flying through it. I was crying for 100 pages. I was attached. I'm in love. I'm rooting for all the characters. I wanted more, and I was sad when it ended. I tabbed it up a lot. I just really enjoyed this one, and it was definitely up there as a favorite. Honestly, maybe an all-time favorite. Wow, that is a lot of talking, and we still have a couple more that are ebooks. So let's hurry up and get through this, and let's get to them. So the next book is Counting Down with You by Tashi Woodman. I don't have a copy of this because I wanted to get the paperback copy, so that'll be here next year. So this is a contemporary romance that is set in high school, and this is about a guy and a girl who meet in their English class. She is tasked to be his English tutor because he's failing, and they start tutoring, obviously. Kind of just said that. Anyway, so they're tutoring, and one day she's at his house, kind of just there. I think she was tutoring him at home, and I think he invited her to stay for dinner because she was there tutoring, and at one moment he just blurts out that she's a girlfriend, which wasn't really what was happening at the moment, but he kind of just blurted it out because he was ashamed of telling his family that he's being tutored. And so to help him with this family relationship and things going on with that, they decided to do a fake dating relationship. And at the same time, the main character, I can't think of her name at the moment, her parents are gone on a vacation for 10-ish days, and she's really just trying to do all the things she wants to do, figure out what she wants to do when she goes to college. She wants to do writing in English, but unfortunately her family doesn't really think it's a real job or really a good idea to do. So she's kind of just trying to figure out how to bring it to them, like, this is what I want to do, this is how I want to do it. And also just enjoy the moment of having this potential boyfriend while her parents are there, because if her parents do know, it probably wouldn't go very well. And it was really cute. I really enjoyed this. This has anxiety rep with the main characters. I believe she has anxiety and or panic attacks throughout the book as well. I don't remember if she takes medication, but I do know that she has some anxiety things going on, and he is an absolute king. The next book is She's Too Pretty to Burn by, I believe, Wendy Hurd. This is a book I read in the beginning of the year. It was an art. This is an LGBTQ plus friendly book, and it is following two women who have met, and they eventually spark up a really good friendship and eventually romance. I think sometime around over the summer, and as that romance continues to build and that love for each other continues to build, some secrets about their own lives come out, and one of the main characters kind of goes wild. It is one of their wild, craziest, probably most dangerous, and possibly even illegal summer yet, and it was crazy. I really thought this would be a contemporary romance, and it's more of a romance thriller or thriller romance. Definitely got a lot of things going on there. It has been a while since I read it. I don't have a clear memory of everything that's in it, but I will say trigger warnings for violence, arson, grief, kidnapping, murder, death, strained relationships with mother, well, parents in general. I think parents, running away from home, sexual content, I think. Maybe just more discussion on what remember actually happening. Just overall violence and gore and murder and things like that. And it was surprisingly, like, it was like you expected it to be one thing and it went the other way, and it was just really good. Like, once it went the other way, I was like, oh, tell me more. And it was just twist after twist after twist, and you're just sitting there like, what is happening. And it's also told in both perspectives, because like one thing will happen and you cut to the next person, and I'm like, I'm not ready to listen to you yet. I'm still processing this one. What is going on? It was wild. It was a fun ride, but it was also really good. So I am back because I have decided to do some honorable mentions. So I'm just gonna hop in and just name a couple of books that I read that did not make it into this list or this video, but I wanted to mention them anyway. So the first one is the first two in a series by Cassandra Clare. If you have been following me on Instagram and just YouTube in general, I've had a really strong interest in relationship with Cassandra Clare books in the past, but recently, this past couple of years, more specifically this year, I have struggled a bit with reading her books. I feel like my interest in them has dwindled. And also just frustration with how similar I'm feeling a lot of the books are becoming to be. But the only ones that I am really excited about right now is, I'm not really sure what the series is called. I think it's the Last Hour series. It's the one that follows Alec and Magnus's relationship throughout the entirety of the series from the moment they met. This series does jump around. I believe book 2 is like books/years later from the first one. And I read both of them this year. I think the first one was with Book of the Month, and the second one I think was my library, and I surprisingly really, really enjoyed it. Like, they're both pretty short, maybe 200 or 300 pages. They go very quickly. They're much easier to read than I feel like the rest of her books. They're very fun. Like, I was like flipping through it. I was like, wow, I think I've read them within a couple of days, if not one. And yeah, I just thought I'd mention them. Another book I'd like to mention is If the Shoe Fits by Julie Murphy. I think this is the first book that I read by Julie. This is a Cinderella retelling about a girl whose stepmother and sisters kind of work and run a kind of like a bachelor type show, but fantasy. And they decide to put her on the show. I can't remember why. There was like some conversation that they had. They decided to put her on the show. So she's on the show, and things take off from there. Just her being on the show and her family kind of being on the sidelines. I really enjoyed this one because I felt like it wasn't a stereotypical Cinderella story. You can definitely see the little Easter eggs in there and the little hints relating to the original story. The stepsister and mom weren't necessarily villains in this book. They're really any villains, to be honest. And also I just really like that bachelor type show plotline in books. I just find it very enjoyable. I have read another one or two. One's like One to Watch. There's another honorable mention which I really enjoyed. And I surprisingly just give this 4.5, 5 stars. Another series I want to talk about is Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. This I started off on a webtoon. If it wasn't for my friend Jasmine, I probably would have never touched webtoon. Like, never. And now I religiously read like 6 or 7 webcomics a week from webtoon. One of them is Heartstopper. This one I have read with webtoon, but also using my library, because I think I started with my library, and then I was like, oh wait, it's on webtoon. I can watch it. I can read them all a little bit further past what the books have published so far. So I have read all of those. So I think if you were to put it into books, I read all 4 of them, or is there 3? I think there's 4, and I read a little bit more past it. I really enjoyed this. This is about a guy who's on the hockey team and another guy who goes to school who they have a class together. I can't remember. They meet and they form a relationship. These books do move very quickly. They also discuss different LGBT relationships and identity and gender and sexualities and mental illness and disorders, and taking care of yourself. I definitely feel like the mental illness and disorders takes more of a bigger plot in books 3 and 4, and then the relationships is more all 4 of the books so far. Other book, duology, is the Old Tides of Fate, All the Stars and Teeth duology. This is a series I started last year and I finished this year. It is a fantasy book with a female main character with her little bandit friends. Basically the plot of these books is that in the first one, because of her trial basically proving that she is right for the throne, failed, and she's being banished into jail, she breaks out and goes on to a ship with these pirates to go figure out what's going on with the kingdom, because she also found out that there has been some kind of villain causing some issues within the kingdom that she was not aware of, and also hopes to take back her kingdom and show that she, is worthy of the throne. So that is the whole thing that happens. And then in book 2, she's back in the kingdom, but she goes back on another journey because her family is kind of like, okay, you're queen now. When you get married, when you have some kids, royalty stuff. You gotta go find a suitor. And whilst you're out there, build our relationships with these other islands and get us some supplies and look good because your people kind of fear you right now. So go get a man, go talk to your peoples, and get us some stuff. Yeah, yeah. So she does that, sort of. Obviously it's fantasy and you have a stubborn female main character, so things don't go according to plan. Of course, there's always going to be that group of villains or bandits that's out there, and things happen. I really enjoyed them, and it really made me want to read more pirate and mermaid books. I feel like I don't read a lot of them, and so I'm really hoping to look into more. And the last honorable mention I'm going to be doing is an author, and that is Tessa Dare. To be honest, I think Tessa Dare is one of the main reasons why I'm reading romance as much as I do now. Tessa Dare's historical fiction romance, they have me in a chokehold. Like, they won't let go of me. They're taunting me every second. I really enjoy them. I think my favorite is like the Girl Meets Duke series. It's basically like some girl meets a duke, and there's some sort of relationship happens. I think there's one where, I can't remember if this is a Girl Meets Duke series, but it might be another series, but it's just Tessa Dare in general. There's one where a girl goes to this duke because she had created a wedding dress for his fiance, and she never got paid. And so she's like, hey, come get your dress, give me my money. But I guess it turns out that engagement has ended, but they have not, filled everybody in on that. And so while she's there, she ends up sort of getting a job offer to work for him. Because, she didn't get paid. There's another one where I think our girl works. She is somewhat of a socialite, but she has recently kind of fell from the spotlight and started just spending time on her little home with all her animals, her rescues, like goats, chicken, dogs, raccoons, random little animals like that. And there's this man, I think, who moves in next door because he's planning to, like, renovate the house or something like that. Something with the house. And he sees her home with animals, and he's like, I can't sell this house with you looking crazy next to it. What's going on over here? So he tries to kind of get her to do she do and go. But obviously it doesn't work out because they start to fall for each other, and it's really cute. I think she also ends up, I think he helped, or is it him? I can't remember who. I think he helps her become more of a socialite again to kind of help sell the place, but also kind of give them animals in check. You know what I'm saying? I really enjoyed the series. I do believe there were a few that kind of gave me like Disney princess or just random princess fairy tale retelling vibes, but that just could be me projecting my love for retelling on a book and just taking the slightest little bit of hint and being really excited and going and running with it. So yeah, Tessa Dare has been someone that I really enjoyed. I don't think I've given any of the books a bad rating. As far as I know, I think they've all been 3 to 5 stars so far, and I really hope to continue with their books in the future. And we have finally made it to the very, very last book on this list, but not the least, and that is Love in the Wild. This is a adult romance that I read early in the year as a buddy read with my friend Avery. We read it through, I think we bought it or used Kindle Unlimited, I can't remember. I think we both bought it. This is a Tarzan retelling. If you know me, I love my retellings. And this is one of the very first and probably the only Tarzan retellings I've ever heard of or read. And it was really good. It definitely reminds me of the Tarzan live action movie with the Margot Robbie in it. That movie is immaculate. Like, I love that movie. There's a lot of fairy tale retellings that are out that I haven't been too fond of. I just feel like they are either too away from the fairy tale, I don't really get the vibes, or too much of it, or it doesn't give you a good balance. Tarzan, though, that was good. The characters, they hot. They did that, and it was great. I love Margot. I think I went through a Margot phase when I watched it, which is probably why I love it so much. But the book, reading it, all I could think of was Margot Robbie with like a dirty blonde, maybe dark brown hair, and then that Tarzan with the long locks. That book was so good. It was so good. I definitely say, because it is Tarzan, somewhat of some insta-love trope in there. There is a language barrier trope in there. trigger warnings for murder in the very beginning of the book, a little bit towards the end of the book, just general violence out of that. I think the most death is in the beginning of the book, which is how the two characters meet. Oh, did I even tell you the story? What it's about? Okay, so this book is about a woman who goes on like this, what she does in Tarzan. She goes exploring and meeting villagers and things like that, and taking pictures of animals and learning and being nature life friendly. I don't know what the job is, so like, as you can see, I'm struggling. I've been filming videos all day. I've been writing for Nano. The words are just all over the place. Anyway, so she's there, and she's there with a bunch of other people. And at one point, they get caught by, I think, like some poachers or some bad people. And those people are angry. And they proceed to shoot and kill almost every single one person. And Tarzan, that's not his name. I can't think of his name at the moment either. He hears all the gunshots and all the craziness that's going on. So he comes to save and help people. I was like, oh, he's just curious. And before they get to killing our Jane character, again, that's not her name, he saves her. And that is how they meet. And he ends up taking her to his, little cave under his wing to protect her and get to know her, understand her. Because I do believe she's she's the only human outside of the tribe that he lives near that I think he knows. And he's just very intrigued by her. Also, she's a woman. If you know Tarzan's story, you know what I'm talking about. Like, just how the whole thing goes. So, I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars. I ended up reading it like once, twice afterwards, and I still enjoy it to this day. And not thinking about it, I think I'm gonna watch the movie again because it's good. I think I talked about this in a previous video, but like the retellings this year that I read, they just woo, and all the ones come out next year. I'm about to just give myself a retelling TBR, just watch the movies and books and have a great time because it's just why not? They're good. They're good. That's all I'm saying. That is all of my favorite / best books of 2021. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys for hanging out. Leave a heart emoji down below because these are the best books, favorite books. You like them, you love them. Leave any heart emojis down below so I know that you've made it this far, and I'll see you in the next one.